So, a week ago, I was sitting here um, trying to figure out what I was going to say about the actress Hayden Panettiere and Panettiere. I'm not sure how you say her name, sorry. From Heroes, and I was going to talk about that. But then, like, life got in the way and things got busy, and I put it off. And then yesterday, um, Dolly Parton passed away. And I was like, well, I don't want to talk about her and Hayden in the same video because they're two. They both mean something different. Um, and then I've been offline today because it's been a stressful day. I've had appointments with mental health people, and I've been playing Minecraft, so I wasn't on social media. I didn't have Discord opened. I had the app turned off. I had notifications turned off on my everything was. I was just playing Minecraft, and then my girlfriend sends me a link, an article that Tim Curry passed away, and for obvious reasons, as a bisexual, transgender, queer woman, I am way more devastated by him. Sorry. Not to say that the other two didn't mean what they meant, especially Dolly. She was um, uh, just a powerful woman and a positive force in the world, but like y'all don't know what Rocky Horror means to us unless you're like in our community. Cause like when that movie, when that stage play, when that phenomenon came out, and it was before my time, but I grew up in the 80s and 90s when it still was tough. But when that stuff came out, there had never been any legitimate, and I say legitimate here with a grain of salt, uh, trans or queer representation in Broadway or Hollywood. And the fact that a Broadway musical and got turned into got turned into such an iconic film happened within the span of such a short period of time. And yeah, I honest to God can't tell you how young I was the first time I learned what Rocky Horror Picture Show was and who Frankenfurter was and Tim Curry. I knew Tim Curry's name, to circle back to not just this be all about Rocky Horror, obviously, but I remember watching, like, when I was like 12 or 13. I remember watching Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, and he did the voice of the computer virus villain on that. And yeah, I know him from, like, obviously from like a million things. Clue, that episode of Psych, um, fucking It from the 90s, the miniseries, Legend. Obviously, I've mentioned it already. Rocky Horror. Um, and so, like, and too many other things for me to list. I'm not gonna pull up his IMDb. There's just like so many things. But like when you're growing up in the 80s and 90s in rural ass Kansas, and you know that you feel you're not like everybody else, and you have like Jerry Springer parading a bunch of trans girls on out in front of the audience to mock them and throw beer cans at them, and you have Ace Ventura being trans and homophobic, and then you have the astronomically problematic Silence of the Lambs. You're like, you feel like, God, the world hates us, you know? And then you discover, God, this thing called Rocky Horror Picture Show exists. And you're like, oh my God, there are other people like me, and they're just like regular people. Maybe not like the obvious kind of normal, air quotes, that you see at the Kmart, but just regular people living their happy lives. Or at least trying to. And yeah, the movie is bonkers. And, I mean, by today's standards, we would say problematic, but we're not going to go there because, you know, you got to look at it at the time it was made and the language they had at the time, and you just got to accept it for, listen, it's too important to give a fuck of how it would be different if it was made today. Unfortunately, it gets made today all the time because the stage show, you know, is a regular thing that theater groups put on. When I was a theater minor, journalism major, theater minor in college, our university theater program, we did the Rocky Horror theater play. We did the Rocky Horror play, the musical, because you just do. When you're a theater nerd, you don't have to be gay, queer, trans, straight, bi, whatever. You don't have to be one of us in our community. You can be straight. You can be, you know, an ally. But if you're a theater nerd and you just the second you discover Rocky Horror, you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. And yeah, I could definitely talk about, as a horror fan, like Stephen King horror, you know, Wes Craven, I could definitely talk about it, Pennywise, for like 2 or 3 hours, easily. And I know he was only on, excuse me for that, one episode of Psych, but it was one of my, like, top 5 favorite episodes of Psych. Like, yeah, I know he was in other stuff. Clue was fantastic. God, I don't think I can watch Clue without crying ever again, because we'd already lost Martin Mull, who was just sort of like, okay, he's a guy I'm familiar with, you know, no shade, but like Tim Curry is different for us, you know, and like just just like you guys, the people watching this that aren't trans, that aren't queer, that aren't gay, that aren't in our community, you know, you're crying because you know him from something from your childhood. Excuse me. But it's so much more for some of us, and again, not for everybody, because not everybody knew who he was, and not everybody identified with the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but for those of us, especially those of us from, you know, the 70s and 80s, and even the 90s, us millennials and the Gen X, like, you have no idea how refreshing it was to see Rocky Horror for the first time, and to know that not everybody hates us, you know? And there are more people out there like me. I can't pause the recording because I'm using OBS and I don't know what the pause function is, so I'm going to blow my nose real quick. Trigger warning for those that can't tolerate that. So turn away. And yeah, he was a great entertainer also. And that's what makes it hurt even more. Is he was a trans and queer icon, 1,000,000%. But also a fucking phenomenal entertainer. Excuse me, my nose is kind of clogged up right now. I knew I had to make this video like raw. As soon as I read the news, I was like, no, I gotta talk about him right now. Rocky Horror right now. And I'm still gonna talk about it. I'm gonna come back to that. This video may be long. I may ramble. Or I may just decide that I gotta turn it off and do some crying. And go watch some, like, Tim Curry movies now. I don't know. That's gonna be more up to my girlfriend if she wants to watch something tonight. Because I'm pretty sure she's also hurting over this one. You know, she grew up watching Rocky Horror. You know, just like I did. You know, I didn't grow up with. I mean, watching it. I knew about it growing up. I didn't watch it until I was an adult. I knew what it was. I saw the play when I was in college, but still, just knowing about it, because I watched, you know, like they did a documentary on it on VH1, and just knowing that it was out there. And yeah, my parents were never going to buy me that movie on VHS or DVD, so I knew that I had to wait until I was on my own before I even got to see it for myself. But just knowing it was out there, and knowing the story behind it, how it got made, why it got made, how mainstream audiences, just like they do with us back then, society was like, they didn't give it its due, its flowers at the time, but like, we showed up for it and kept it alive. And I don't think that specific version of Rocky Horror would have been half as impactful as it ended up being if it weren't for Tim Curry just fucking killing it. I apologize for the... I can't help it. You're just gonna have to suck it up. You know, I'm sorry. There are some people in Hollywood or music, entertainers, celebrities, comedians, whatever, some people that touch the masses in one way or another, like Robin Williams, just so universally beloved that everybody mourns when they pass away, and I think Tim Curry is one of those people. And, you know, not to belittle him, because he was absolutely phenomenal at what he was, but it's different for, like, Martin Mull, who was, like, a bit actor that showed up in everything you remember, versus Tim Curry, who was sometimes a bit actor, but was also sometimes the leading man, the star of the show, the reason you bought the ticket. Fuck. I'll tell you what, I am 100% watching something Tim Curry tonight. I don't know if it's going to be Rocky Horror, Clue. It might be a bit much, because that's a 3-hour, you know, that's a 3-hour ordeal, and I don't know if my girlfriend's going to, you know, stay up for 3 hours to watch that long of a movie. I know I will. Even if I have to wait for her to go to bed. That'll be fine. I'll stay up. I don't have anything going on tomorrow. Well, I've got one thing in the morning, but I'm not gonna fucking... I'm not gonna fucking worry about that until tomorrow. And I do want to acknowledge that I had thought about doing a video on Hayden Panett. I think it's Panettiere or Panettiere. I'm not sure how you say it. I never really knew how you were supposed to say it, because I always heard it different ways. I was going to do a video on her. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't gonna do a video on Dolly Parton just because, like, I knew who she was and I respected her work and everything, but I didn't listen to her music and I didn't really have a connection with her other than, yeah, I know who she is. But Tim Curry, 100%. I knew he was gonna die one of these days. We all do. We're all gonna die. It's the unfortunate truth of being a mortal being, is we die. A mortal being. I didn't say immortal being. I know that may have sounded funky dory there for a second, but yeah. And I'm not gonna get into the whole talking shit about, the Grim Reaper missed again, or fucking fuck off with that shit. Let's let us mourn without trying to turn it into something that we don't need it to be. Not that I wouldn't be dancing in the streets when that day comes, because we all are. That's when we're gonna have a fucking party. No one's gonna be crying over that motherfucker. But that's where I'm gonna leave that. But other than that, I mean, like, I'm gonna shift my attention over to Clue for just a minute, because the biggest, like, yeah, there's so many things and I could talk about them all, but like the biggest for me personally connections I have with Tim Curry, little bit childhood, yeah, Superhuman Samurai, but I'm gonna sweep that under the rug. That's like a Power Rangers knockoff. We don't need to get too deep into that. But for me, it's like Rocky Horror, Clue, and It. So those are the big three I want to talk about. Everybody's got their own thing. I've already talked about Rocky Horror, for about, 5 or so minutes, 10 minutes by now at this point. So I'm going to move on to Clue. The funny thing about Clue is I liked the board game when I was a kid. I'm not going to, blow smoke, obviously. I loved the board game. Heck, I've got the Big Bang Theory Clue. That was a Christmas present my parents got me. Don't read too much into it. But anyways, but yeah, I saw the movie, and I couldn't probably really tell you the first time I saw it, but I've fucking seen Clue. I'll tell you that right now. And there are a lot of absurd '80s comedies that were made at that time that you watch and you're like, okay, cool, this is gonna be in my rotation. And then there's movies, and Clue isn't the only one. I'm not gonna single it out and raise it above the rest. Then there's movies like Clue where you're like, this isn't just a movie. This is like an event type thing. This is something special. And it was the whole ensemble. It wasn't just one person that made Clue special. But obviously, if you've ever seen Clue, you know that Tim Curry's performance in that, his role in that is, he was the glue that held it together, obviously. We're not going to talk about the movie Tim Curry was in with Macaulay Culkin. We're going to step aside from that one. Obviously, we're just going to leave that there. And I know somebody mentioned, I've seen so many people in the 10 minutes that I was scrolling social media before I made this video, mentioning a Muppet something, or I don't know, one of the Muppet thingies. I don't watch the Muppets, y'all. I don't. No shade, no disrespect to those who like the Muppets. It's just not my thing. So I'm not gonna talk about, oh, he was blah 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 in the Muppet thing, or whatever Muppet thing he was in. I don't know which Muppet thing it was, because I'm not into the Muppets. So don't ask me, what was your favorite line from the Muppet thing? I don't fucking know. Hey, Miss Piggy. That's probably the statistically likely to be a line in one of the Muppet things. So, there you go. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm processing. I'm grieving. So my brain is like, flooded right now with snot and emotions and all kinds of feelings. And yeah, I know he did voice acting too. I already mentioned the one voice that I knew him from. But now we're gonna pivot. We're gonna talk about it. Now we're about plus or minus 20 minutes into this video. I like to keep these under 90 minutes if I can. I try to keep my videos between 45 minutes to an hour if I'm not going to get too long-winded. So we'll see where this falls. I could do a whole ass series of videos on what the movie It means to me. Stephen King's It from 1990, the miniseries, the two-parter. We're not gonna peel the Band-Aid off and talk about the book, because we still have scars from that. And we're not going to talk about the Skarsgård, saying the word scar again. We're not going to talk about that version right now. We're just going to focus on the one where Tim Curry was Pennywise, the dancing clown, or the eldritch creature that we call It. The It in It. Look, don't even come in to my world and start talking about how, it was too cheesy. Just shut the fuck up right there. I'm an 80s kid. I watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I like Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. I watched fucking, The Monster Squad and, The Breakfast Club. Well, maybe not so much The Breakfast Club, but like 16 Candles. My, Police Academy. Growing up, your movies were dripping with gooey cheese, okay? So you're not going to criticize a movie I like because it's too cheesy. It's no, grab a spoon and enjoy the cheese fast. It's a cheese festival. Let's have some fucking, good times. So I'm just going to shut the door on that right now, alright? You're not going to shit on this movie. And it isn't just because, Tim Curry, awesome. You got other actors that were in that movie that did their thing. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. John Boy. Couldn't tell you anything about the actor other than I know him as John Boy. That'll tell you where I stand on that guy. John Ritter, also rest in peace. He died forever ago. He was in Bride of Chucky. That's an awesome horror movie from that era. But we're not going to go down that road too far. And then some other movies that I'm not going to... other actors I'm not going to be able to talk about. But, I'll tell you right now, the first time I saw It, and this is why I'm going to shut the door on anyone who's going to talk shit about this movie. That movie fucking terrified me the first time I saw it. And I was 19, I think, the first time I saw it. So, yeah. Okay, granted, I'm in real life. I'm terrified of clowns, and I'm scared of spiders. So, okay, not a great combination. But Tim Curry fucking hammed it up and owned it in that movie. And he was able to bring the scary and the silly and the cheesy and still be effective when he needed to be at all three. That's fucking talent. There are some actors, I'm not going to name names, Nicolas Cage, that's a bad cough, that can ham it up, but they're not. They suck at the acting, and they're not as good as the cheesy as Tim Curry is gooey, fucking nacho cheese topped with queso with some fucking melted shredded cheddar cheese on top, sitting on top of a bowl of cottage cheese that you're just, with a spoon, you're just chowing down on the cheese and having a good time. Nicolas Cage is the dried, crusty Parmesan flakes that you left in the cupboard and forgot to refrigerate, but now you got nothing else to put on your stale pizza because you left it out on the counter for overnight, and you're going to pop it in the microwave and pray to the gods it doesn't kill you. That's the Nicolas Cage kind of cheese. Not the good kind of cheese. He's the moldy cheese. And Tim Curry is the yummy cheese. Hey, don't read too far into that. Dude was 80 years old. Come on. We're not going down that road. But, legend for sure. And I don't mean the movie Legend, but like the actor was a legend. But also played the devil, more or less, in the movie Legend. Which is another one that I really don't want to talk about. Because that's another one of those movies where it's like, alright, listen. The 80s were a different time, okay? And not only do I remember Tim Curry's It scaring the shit out of me the first time I watched it. And I was 19, rented it on a VHS cassette. Well, 2 cassettes, actually. From the local video store, not the Blockbuster. We had a locally owned video store. Knew their kids. The guy that owned the video store went to his daughter was in my class. I was like, actually, her younger sister, asked me to the prom one year. So I fully supported the local video store. I didn't go with her. I went with the girl I had a crush on, who asked me the same day. So I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. Look, I was a teenager. Okay, get off my back. But yeah, that movie, I remember watching it and terrified the shit out of me, but I was also just mesmerized the whole time. Now, I have seen Stephen King's It, the 1990 It, the Tim Curry It, probably more times, one, than any other Stephen King movie except for maybe Maximum Overdrive. And 2, definitely more than any other Tim Curry project. 100%. And that's not saying, oh, I watch It a bunch and nothing else. No, it's like I watch a bunch of other stuff and then It extra, extra, extra because I fucking love that movie. Or TV, movie, miniseries, whatever you want to fucking call it. I remember having it on DVD, and it was all edited together as one continuous movie on the DVD, which is how I watch it today. When I watch it, I watch it as one continuous movie. So to me, it's just a movie. You don't have to pop the tape out of the VCR, pop the new one in, and then stick tape 1 into the rewinder so you can. No, we don't got to do that today. We live in 2026. We don't have to fuck around with VCRs anymore. I guess I really don't have anything else to say. I kind of got through the hard part at the start of the video. And now I'm going to go into the part where I have to hurry up and upload this. And then start putting words to the keyboard on social media so that I just let the other people in my community that are also hurting know that, hey, we're all hurting together today. And, Jesus fucking Christ, I can't. I mean, I knew it was coming someday, obviously. I'm not going to say 80, that's too young. I mean, no. 36, that's too young. 80, alright, you live a ripe life. You lived, I'm 43 right now. I'll be 44 in a week. So, yeah, 80, you've lived a full life. I've only lived about half of that, and I haven't even lived a fucking 1% of the life Tim Curry lived. So I'm just going to leave it there. Rest in peace, and, give Dolly a hug for us. That's all I got to say.